ExamPrep.School. Texas Property and Casualty Risk Manager Insurance Exam. Exam code INSTX-PCRM92. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Bonds, coverages, policies, endorsements, and forms. Insurance terms and related concepts as policy provisions and contract law, risk management, Texas statutes and rules. Pertinent to risk management. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Which of the following statements best describes pure risk in insurance terminology? A risk that arises from volatile price movements in financial markets. B, a risk that involves only the possibility of loss or no loss without any chance of financial gain. C, a risk assumed voluntarily by the insured to reduce premium costs. D, a risk transferred to a captive insurer to retain potential profits. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. Pure risk refers exclusively to situations where there is no possibility of financial gain-only loss, or no loss making it insurable by traditional insurance methods. Reason A is not correct. This describes financial or market risk, which is speculative rather than pure risk. Reason C is not correct. Voluntarily assuming risk to save costs describes risk retention, not the definition of pure risk. Reason D is not correct. Transferring risk to a captive insurer relates to risk financing, not the inherent nature of pure risk. Question 2. Which of the following best defines speculative risk? A risk that involves the chance of loss, no change, or gain depending on uncertain future events. B, a risk eliminated through avoidance strategies rather than transfer. C, a risk arising from the destruction of property by fire or water damage. D, a risk automatically covered under a policy without need for endorsement. The correct answer is A. Speculative risk encompasses situations where outcomes may result in financial loss, no change, or gain, making it generally uninsurable by standard insurance carriers. Reason B is not correct. This refers to risk avoidance as a management technique, not a definition of speculative risk. Reason C is not correct. This describes a peril or type of property risk, not the nature of speculative risk. Reason D is not correct. This relates to policy coverage mechanics, not to the inherent outcome possibilities of speculative risk. Question 3. Which of the following best characterizes a physical hazard? A contractual provision that adjusts coverage limits after a specified period. B, a deliberate act by an insured to misrepresent information for financial gain. C, a tangible condition of property or environment, such as frayed wiring, that increases the likelihood or severity of loss. D, a risk that offers both potential financial gain and loss to the insured. The correct answer is C. A physical hazard is a material or environmental condition like defective wiring or slippery surfaces that elevates the chance or severity of loss under an insurance policy. Reason A is not correct. This relates to policy contract terms, not a hazard inherent in property or environment. Reason B is not correct. This describes moral hazard, involving intentional misrepresentation, not a physical condition. Reason D is not correct. This defines speculative risk, not a physical hazard. Question 4. Which of the following is an example of a moral hazard in insurance? A walkway becomes slippery due to inadequate snow removal. B, exterior bricks gradually loosen over years of exposure to the elements. C, an engine suddenly fails because of unexpected mechanical wear. D, an insured intentionally exaggerates the value of a loss to receive greater compensation. The correct answer is D. Moral hazard arises when an insured's dishonesty or lack of integrity, such as inflating a claim, creates a greater risk of loss for the insurer. Reason A is not correct. This describes a physical hazard resulting from poor maintenance, not moral hazard. Reason B is not correct. This illustrates deterioration over time. A physical or moral hazard is absent. Reason C is not correct. This depicts mechanical failure, a pure risk scenario unrelated to moral behavior. Question 5. A policyholder routinely leaves their vehicle unlocked and unattended in a high-crime area, not to commit fraud, but because they believe nothing ever happens there. Which of the following best describes this behavior as it relates to insurance hazards? A. Physical hazard, since leaving the vehicle unattended increases loss potential due to external conditions. B. Morale hazard, because the indifferent attitude raises the chance of loss without intent to defraud. C. Moral hazard, as the policyholder's actions facilitate theft for financial gain. D. Peril, because an unlocked vehicle directly exposes it to the risk of theft. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because the insured's careless attitude increases the likelihood of loss without any intent to deceive, which defines a morale hazard. Reason A is not correct. Leaving the vehicle unattended is an insured's behavior, not an inherent physical condition of the property. Reason C is not correct. There is no intent to deceive or profit from a claim, so this does not constitute a moral hazard. Reason D is not correct. A peril is the cause of loss itself, for example theft, not the insured's behavior that increases risk. Question 6. Which formula is most commonly used to determine the actual cash value of insured property at the time of loss? A. Replacement cost multiplied by depreciation. B. Replacement cost minus depreciation. C. Original cost plus depreciation. D. Market value minus salvage value. The correct answer is B. The correct formula subtracts accumulated depreciation from replacement cost to estimate the actual cash value at loss. Reason A is not correct. Multiplying replacement cost by depreciation does not correctly reflect the loss in value because it yields an inflated figure rather than a deduction. Reason C is not correct. Adding depreciation to original cost increases the value incorrectly and diverges from the concept of actual cash value. Reason D is not correct. Subtracting salvage value from market value conflates market concepts and does not align with the ACV calculation. Question 7. Which valuation method reimburses the full cost to repair or replace property without deductions for depreciation? A. Functional replacement cost valuation. B. Replacement cost valuation. C. Agreed value. D. Actual cash value. The correct answer is B. The correct method pays the full cost of repair or replacement without subtracting depreciation, matching replacement cost valuation. Reason A is not correct. Functional replacement cost valuation adjusts for modern materials or methods, not the standard full replacement cost without depreciation. Reason C is not correct. Agreed value fixes a prearranged value but may not reflect actual replacement cost fully without negotiation. Reason D is not correct. Actual cash value includes depreciation deductions and does not pay full replacement cost. Question 8. Which payment basis characterizes the market value option in property insurance policies? A. Payment of the greater of policy limit or market value. B. Payment of the lesser of policy limit or market value. C. Payment of the lesser of replacement cost or market value. D. Payment equal to stated amount less depreciation. The correct answer is B. The market value option limits the insurer's payment to whichever is lower, the property's market value at loss or the policy limit. Reason A is not correct. Paying the greater of two values would overcompensate and is not characteristic of this option. Reason C is not correct. Comparing replacement cost to market value applies a different basis and ignores policy limits. Reason D is not correct. Stated amount endorsements involve pre-agreed values, not market value comparisons. Question 9. What best describes the function of a stated amount endorsement in property insurance? A. Pays replacement cost without depreciation. B. Sets a predetermined property value for claim settlement regardless of actual cash value. C. Pays actual cash value minus agreed depreciation. D. Limits payout to market value less deductible. The correct answer is B. A stated amount endorsement establishes an agreed property value for claims, ensuring payment up to that amount without depreciation adjustments. Reason A is not correct. Replacement cost coverage without depreciation is a separate valuation method, not this endorsement. Reason C is not correct. Subtracting depreciation aligns with actual cash value, which the endorsement seeks to bypass. Reason D is not correct. Limiting to market value less deductible refers to market value options, not stated amount. Question 10. A commercial warehouse's 50-year-old roof is severely damaged by a hailstorm. The property policy includes a functional replacement cost provision, allowing for modern equivalents rather than identical materials. Under this provision, which amount will the insurer most likely reimburse? A. The cost to install a modern roofing system that delivers the same performance and function as the damaged roof, using current materials. B. The cost to reconstruct the roof using the exact materials, design, and workmanship of the original 50-year-old assembly. C. The replacement cost of the roof minus depreciation to reflect its actual cash value immediately before the loss. D. The market value of the building after roof repairs based on comparable local property sales. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is the cost to install a contemporary roofing system of similar function, which reflects the functional replacement cost concept by allowing modern materials and methods rather than replicating obsolete materials. Reason B is not correct. This describes traditional replacement cost, which requires like-kind, quality materials identical to the original rather than modern equivalents. Reason C is not correct. This defines actual cash value, which deducts depreciation from replacement cost, not the functional replacement cost approach. Reason D is not correct. This describes market value, which is based on economic worth and comparables, not the cost to replace the roof functionally. Question 11. In negligence law, which of the following is the fourth element that a plaintiff must prove in addition to duty, breach, and causation? A. Actual damages suffered by the plaintiff. B. Strict liability for inherently dangerous activities. C. Contributory negligence by the plaintiff. D. Punitive damages to deter future conduct. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is actual damages because negligence requires proof of a legally cognizable loss in addition to duty, breach, and causation. Reason B is not correct. Strict liability is a separate doctrine not required to establish negligence elements. Reason C is not correct. Contributory negligence is a defense, not an element the plaintiff must prove. Reason D is not correct. Punitive damages are awarded at the court's discretion and not a required element. Question 12. Under general negligence principles, a property owner owes what duty to an undiscovered trespasser? A. Refrain from willful or wanton harm. B. Exercise reasonable care in all activities. C. Warn of all known hazards on the property. D. Provide the same protection as for invitees. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is refrain from willful or wanton harm because undiscovered trespassers receive the minimal duty of non-willful injury. Reason B is not correct. Reasonable care applies to invitees, not undiscovered trespassers. Reason C is not correct. There is no duty to warn an undiscovered trespasser of hazards. Reason D is not correct. Invitees receive higher protection. Trespassers do not have that duty. Question 13. Which breach of duty test employs the formula B, P multiplied by L, where B is burden, P is probability, and L is severity of loss? A. Res ipsa loquitur doctrine. B. Negligence per se standard. C. Learned hands calculus of negligence. D. Reasonable person test. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is learned hands calculus because that formula explicitly balances burden against probability and loss to determine breach. Reason A is not correct. Res ipsa loquitur applies when negligence is inferred, not by balancing factors. Reason B is not correct. Negligence per se is based on statutory violation, not the B, P multiplied by L test. Reason D is not correct. The reasonable person test is a general standard, not a mathematical formula. Question 14. Proximate cause and negligence limits liability to harms that are which of the following? A. A direct but unforeseeable result. B. An intervening cause only. C. A reasonably foreseeable result. D. A cause in fact without policy limits. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is a reasonably foreseeable result because proximate cause restricts liability to outcomes within the foreseeable risk created. Reason A is not correct. Unforeseeable results fall outside proximate cause. Reason B is not correct. Intervening causes may break causation, not define proximate cause. Reason D is not correct. Cause and fact alone does not address policy limits under proximate cause. Question 15. In jurisdiction X, following a pure comparative negligence rule, and jurisdiction Y, following a modified comparative negligence rule with a 50% bar, Mary is found to be 55% at fault for an automobile collision and suffers $80,000 in damages. How much is Mary entitled to recover in jurisdiction Y? A. $36,000. B. $44,000. C. $0. D. $80,000. The correct answer is C. Mary's 55% fault exceeds the 50% threshold under the modified comparative negligence rule, barring any recovery in jurisdiction Y. Reason A is not correct. This reflects Mary's recoverable amount under a pure comparative negligence system, not the modified rule in jurisdiction Y. Reason B is not correct. This represents Mary's share of fault times damages, which is not how recovery is calculated under either comparative rule. Reason D is not correct. This would be full recovery and ignores the effect of Mary's own negligence under any comparative negligence rule. Question 16. Which of the following statements most accurately reflects the primary function of the declarations page in a property and casualty insurance policy? A. Lists all policy exclusions and endorsements applicable to the insured risk. B. Defines the insured's contractual duties and responsibilities under the policy terms. C. Summarizes the coverage types, limits, premiums, and policy period to facilitate underwriting risk assessment. D. Specifies the insurer's procedural guidelines for claims handling and adjustment. The correct answer is C. The correct answer provides a comprehensive overview of coverages, limits, premiums, and policy duration, which are the core elements included on the declarations page. Reason A is not correct. Exclusions are typically found in a separate section, not primarily on the declarations page. Reason B is not correct. Misrepresents the declarations page's role, which does not detail contractual conditions. Reason D is not correct. Claims procedures appear elsewhere in the policy. The declarations page focuses on coverage summary. Question 17. In the declarations section of a commercial property policy, who is designated as the named insured? A. A mortgagee or other line holder with financial interest in the insured property. B. The person or organization explicitly named in the declarations with coverage rights and obligations. C. Any party added subsequently under an endorsement to the policy. D. The claims adjuster assigned to handle loss evaluations under the policy. The correct answer is B. This option correctly identifies the primary insured party named in the declaration section, which holds coverage rights and responsibilities under the policy. Reason A is not correct. A lion holder or mortgagee has an insurable interest, but is not the named insured. Reason C is not correct. Endorsements list additional insureds but do not change who the original named insured is. Reason D is not correct. The adjuster is not an insured party, but a representative responsible for evaluating claims. Question 18. A company purchases a commercial property insurance policy stating it is effective from 6:00 p.m. on September 15th to 6:00 p.m. on September 15th of the following year. At 4:00 p.m. on the anniversary date, a windstorm causes significant damage. The insured denies the claim, arguing the policy had expired. Which statement best describes the insurer's obligations under standard policy period specifications? A. The loss is not covered because standard fire policies expire at midnight on the expiration date. B. The loss is not covered because the policy expired at 6:00 p.m. and had not been extended. C. The loss is covered because it occurred before the policy's scheduled 6:00 p.m. expiration. D. The loss is covered only if the renewal premium was paid before the expiration date. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that the loss is covered because it occurred at 4:00 p.m., which is before the policy's stated expiration time of 6:00 p.m. on the expiration date. Reason A is not correct. This misinterprets policy wording, since the specified expiration time is 6:00 p.m., not a default midnight termination. Reason B is not correct. This is incorrect because the policy's expiration time was 6:00 p.m., so a loss at 4:00 p.m. falls within the policy period. Reason D is not correct. Renewal premium timing affects renewal coverage, not the validity of the existing policy period. Question 19. Which of the following best describes the primary purpose of the policy conditions section of an insurance contract? A. To outline the duties and obligations of the insured and insurer after a loss. B. To define the specific perils covered under the policy. C. To establish the monetary limits of coverage. D. To detail the method for calculating premiums. The correct answer is A. The policy conditions section specifies post-loss responsibilities such as notice requirements, proof of loss, and cooperation obligations. Reason B is not correct. Defining perils is the role of the insuring agreement, not the conditions section. Reason C is not correct. Coverage limits are stated elsewhere, typically in the declarations or insuring agreement. Reason D is not correct. Premium calculation details appear in rating manuals or endorsements, not in policy conditions. Question 20. What effect does the liberalization clause have when an insurer adopts a broader coverage endorsement without additional premium? A. It only applies to new policies issued after the endorsement date. B. It requires insureds to request and pay for the updated coverage. C. It extends the broader coverage retroactively to existing policies without extra cost. D. It voids any conflicting coverage parts in the existing policy. The correct answer is C. The liberalization clause ensures any newly brought-in coverage is automatically applied to current policies at no additional charge. Reason A is not correct. The clause applies to all enforced policies, not just those issued after the change. Reason B is not correct. No request or additional payment is required when coverage is broadened under this clause. Reason D is not correct. The clause does not void coverage parts, it simply broadens existing coverage. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.